Okay, today we're going to talk about SAFE. This is an acronym that's going to help us understand some of the best ways to help communicate. Does anybody know what an acronym is? Anybody heard of that?
Letters that stand for sentences.
Good, perfect. So our acronym today is going to be SAFE. We're going to go through and we're going to write this down. And this is also in your books, so if you all want to open up in your books, and I'm going to just use my paper right here, but it is in your books, and so you can have it and you can make notes on it while we're talking about this. So our first one that we're going to talk about is that when we're getting in a situation, we talked about our hot spots that make us feel uncomfortable and things that just make us feel frustrated. What we're going to do is we're going to stay calm. How do you feel if you're feeling really frustrated and somebody yells at you?
Not calm.
Not calm anymore. It's really hard. If you're feeling frustrated with someone and you start to yell at them, how are they going to feel?
Upset.
They are going to feel upset. So what the best thing that you can do is to stay calm. Is this always easy? It most definitely isn't, and this takes some practice. So don't feel afraid if you feel like you need to practice, or if you don't do very well at this the very first time that it happens, that's okay. But as you start practicing now, it's a skill that you'll develop, that you'll have as you continue on in your life. And as we've talked about, being a teenager is that transition between being young and becoming an adult, and this will help you become a better adult as you learn and develop these skills. So we want to stay calm. We talked about some of those calming strategies that will help us stay calm, right? We talked about taking a deep breath, or Nubia suggested hugging bunnies, which is really important. Anything that's going to do to make you feel better and make you feel happy. And if that doesn't work, sometimes it's okay to walk away and space yourself out for a little bit. Walk around the block, take some time and say, you know what, maybe tomorrow would be a better time to talk about this when I'm not feeling as frustrated, and that's completely okay. And then our next thing that we want to do is we want to kind of understand where this person's coming from. So we're going to ask them some questions. We want to ask questions because this is going to help us understand, well, what did you mean by saying something like that? Especially in the era of social media and texting. Do you always understand what someone says when they text you?
No.
Everybody's shaking their head no? It's hard sometimes because you can't understand tone. You can't hear the tone. All you're doing is you're reading the words. And sometimes we read those words in the way that we're feeling. So if we're feeling frustrated and upset and somebody sends us a words that could mean something different, we think that they're angry and upset at us when the fact is we're actually not. So a really great way to help us understand is to ask questions, and we can say, you know what? When you said that, this is what I thought you said. Is that what you really meant? And it gives them an opportunity to explain themselves so that we can make sure that we don't understand the way that we thought we did. And the next one is that we want to find out their feelings. How do you feel when somebody says, can you explain why you feel that way?
Like they care.
Yeah, like they care about you. Do you like it when people listen to you?
Yeah.
Everybody likes that. Why do you like it when somebody listens to you?
Makes you feel important.
Yeah, it makes you feel important. Anybody else want to comment?
Feel like they respect you.
They respect you. That's great. And those are making you feel important and making you feel respected are two components of a healthy relationship. So when you're with your dating partner and you ask them questions to find out their feelings, that's going to help them feel important. It's going to help them feel loved. And it's going to help them recognize that you're a healthy dating partner. And when you do something like that and you emulate that and you practice that and show that to them, then they're going to be learning healthy skills as well. So you're being a great example to your dating partner and help them understand this is a great way to have a good communication when you're feeling upset or when you're disagreeing on a subject. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, after all this, we've stayed calm and we've asked a lot of questions and we've explained our feelings and we've found out feelings for our partner. We're going to exchange ideas for a possible solution. How would you feel if someone came up to you and you had a disagreement and they just told you what you were going to do and that was the only option that you had?
Mad. Angry.
Nobody likes that, right? You'd feel mad, you would feel angry. Would you want to stay in a dating relationship with someone like that? Probably not. That makes it hard because you don't feel important and you don't feel loved, like we just talked about when we were talking about finding out feelings. So what we want to do is that together in our relationship, we want to exchange ideas for a possible solution. What would make both of you happy? And this can take some time, and you can do some brainstorming and say, hey, this is how I feel about it and this is what I want to do, but this is what I'm willing to compromise with. And so this helps both people feel like in the relationship that they would be able to offer something and have their opinions heard and valued. So then at this point, we would go into our scenario situations. There's another situation where you can go in and you can read through the situation and you talk about whether or not they used safe. And then you have each student has an opportunity to come up and practice that. And we put 2 students together. It's an awesome opportunity, and we have safe written up on the board so that they can go through and talk about the different points. It's an awesome practice chance because when you practice, you're able to actually remember the stuff that you put in. But for the sake of time today, and because each student is going to be a little bit different, this is going to be something that you'll just get to experiment with in your classrooms, we are going to go ahead and jump forward to the last little bit of section of what happens when it doesn't work. So, what happens if it doesn't work? Okay, students, so now that we've gone through this and everybody's had a chance to practice and everything's going really well, how does everybody feel? Feeling pretty good? Yeah, this is fun, right? Okay, that's not usually my reaction, but all right. So what we're going to do is, now that we've talked about safe and why and how that's so important, unfortunately there are situations when safe doesn't work. We have to have a partner that's willing to talk it out with us and find out those feelings and exchange ideas. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. Sometimes we have a person that just wants to do it their way, or they don't want to communicate. So we're going to talk about a couple things that we can do that if our partner doesn't want to exchange ideas for a possible solution, how we can still make sure that we are feeling safe. So I'm going to read a scenario and I'm going to have you answer some questions on what we can do. All right? So this one is Chung and Lucy. Chung and Lucy are arguing because they're supposed to meet at 6 p.m., but Lucy didn't show up until 7 p.m. She's been trying to explain that she was late and apologize, but Chang keeps interrupting and insulting her for always being late, being rude, and so on. Lucy can't get anywhere. So what can Lucy do if Chang is clearly not going to cooperate? What do you think? What should she do?
Leave.
She could leave? What else could she do?
She could explain why she was being late.
Yeah, and she's trying to do that, but unfortunately, Chang isn't letting her do that.
She needs to give him time to calm down.
Maybe he needs some time to calm down. Absolutely. So those are some great points. If she just needs to directly say, you know what, you need to calm down. I need a chance to explain. And that may not always work. And if that doesn't work, then maybe leaving is the best situation, especially if it's something that gets physically violent and you need to walk away from the situation. And maybe having that conversation over the phone could be the best way to do that. So sometimes people aren't going to listen to you, and you're not going to be able to answer, you're not going to be able to explain yourself in a good way. And I've got one more that we're going to go ahead and go through. Tyler and Rachel are on their way to the movies in Rachel's car. She's mad because she saw Tyler flirting with his ex-girlfriend. He tries to explain that they're just talking and that he doesn't want to be with his ex-girlfriend. Rachel can't seem to understand what he's saying to her. She pulls into the parking lot of the theater and starts yelling and screaming at him. She slapped Tyler on the face before, and it seems as though she's ready to do it again. What do you think Tyler should do in this kind of a situation?
Give her time to cool off, probably.
Yeah, in this situation, Tyler probably should leave. If she's hit him before, odds are really good that she could hit him again. And so she needs a chance to calm down. And so sometimes people aren't going to use these words, and it's great for Tyler to stay calm, but she's not in a position where he can ask a question or find out how she feels because she's not staying calm. So in this situation, it might be better if he just gets out of the car and calls someone to come and pick him up from the movie theater, his parents or a trusted adult or other friends, so that Tyler feels safe, because we definitely want to make sure, as we've pointed out, it's important for each person to feel safe when they're dating relationship. So thank you for participating in our class today, and we will continue next time. All right, so for section 8, there's a couple points that I would like to bring up. I mentioned it briefly in section 7, but we've got some teens that are gender nonconforming. So these are teens that identify in the LGBTQ, or they just need a chance to be able to have a safe place to express that they don't conform to the social norms that we have here in Utah. And so they might be somebody who's interested in a same-sex relationship, or they might be someone who's not interested in having a relationship at all. But we help them understand that this is something that can happen in any relationship, regardless of gender, regardless of actual relationship, because these are things that can happen in a professional relationship or in our family relationships. So a lot of the scenarios in safe dates aren't the best at being gender neutral. So don't be afraid to go in and change those words so that we use some of the pronouns that might be a little bit more welcoming, such as they or them, or just changing the names so that the gender is ambiguous. The names in safe dates are actually pretty good, but they have a lot of he's and she's, which can leave a spot left out for some of our teens that may not associate with one gender or another. So don't be afraid to bring that up and talk about that, and let the teens know, you know what, it's okay, we don't really care about that, you can just be you, but what we do care about is that you feel safe, and that you feel comfortable, and that your relationship is healthy, and that you develop the skills that will ultimately help you become a healthy and well-rounded adult. And then, of course, the role plays. We didn't talk a lot about that during the presentation because those are so unique and they're so different, and you're going to get a little bit of a different experience every time. I've had classes when the students have been really excited to participate in the role plays and they've just jumped up and been really into it, and then I've had classes where I really had to prod and help these teens understand that through practicing that they will be able to remember these skills, because once they've already said it and once they've already done it once in a safe situation, it's that much easier to do it when an actual situation comes up, when it's important for them to be able to remember those words so that they can use it to make sure that they're feeling safe and that their partner is respecting their boundaries. So take whatever tools that you need with you and just read your class. You'll know your class the best. At this point, you've been with them for a little bit. You can understand what may or may not make them feel comfortable. So I usually bribe them with a little bit of candy. That typically ends up working, and just encourage them in keeping an upbeat situation and trying not to be uncomfortable with the topic yourself, because if you're uncomfortable, the teens can read that and they're going to be uncomfortable. So if you're uncomfortable, I highly recommend practicing with your coworkers. See how it feels. Put yourself in the shoes of your teens so that you can go in fully explaining and understanding that you do get that and encouraging them to do it anyway. And then don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Sometimes we get questions during the course of safe dates when students will come and confide in us, or they'll ask us hard questions that we may not know the answer to, and it's okay to say, I don't know. So we get really tricky situations and a lot of what ifs. What if this? What if that? And you just have to step back as a facilitator and say, you know, I really want to help you, and I might need to take a little bit of time to figure that out. Or helping them recognize the resources that are in the back of the booklet. There's a lot of different resources for each county. And of course, our RPE Facebook group, you can always get on there and we can shoot out some questions and get some responses there as well. And then something else that we also really like to do in our programs is that we have a journal that we'll give them. You can always go and get the 10-cent notebooks from Walmart during the school season, and we get a couple hundred of them, and then we can just take them out and give them to the students. And if they have questions that they want to ask, these journals are a great place to ask them, because they can write the questions in there and they can get a private response from us if they feel like that would make them safe. And if that's not something you can do, something else we've also done is just taken a question box. At the end of every class, we just take the box and make everybody write down something on a paper, even if they just want to write a smiley face or something like that, and we make them fold up the paper and put it inside the question box, so that any student that might have a sincere question that they don't want to ask during the class because they don't feel safe by so doing, then we can go and answer that, and then we can talk to the whole class about that subject as a whole. And so those are the two different options so that you can get a little bit more individualized and still helping the teens feel safe. And then if you do have any questions, I'd be more than happy to receive any emails, or I'm also part of the Facebook group page, but my email is Cassidy B, so it's CASSIDY, B as in boy, @centrohispanouc.org.